we will get started. All right, we're live. Good morning. My name is Laura Opheim. I am part of the MGT team that is working on the City of Battle Creek's Equity Audit. Chief Blocker, would you like to kick this off?
Yes. Hey, good morning to Laura and to the rest of the team, and also anybody that's here. I want to say thank you for joining us this morning. This is really important to us and to us as a department and as a community. I want to welcome also MGT Consulting. They are the group that we have that were part of the competitive process. We were pretty impressed with the work, their past work, and so we asked them to support us in this particular effort. What this effort is really it's an opportunity both virtually and soon in person, where we are asking members of the community to talk to us about how not just equity, but also what barriers both internally and externally exist that we don't see ourselves. Where are our blind spots? I said this the last time around, we don't want to be the agency like the emperor with no clothes. We want to be able to appropriately see ourselves, and we need your help in doing that. We're only as strong as the community allows us to be, and we are a part of the community, and that goes back to that Pelian principle, some of the founding principles of policing so many years ago. And so that's why this is important. And then finally, I'm going to be jumping off here, and so I want you to know this is a safe space. You can say what you need to say, and I think it's important that we try to capture it. So really, there are no city personnel that will be, certainly not from PD, that will be a part of this process. And because we value your opinion and we wanted to provide that venue for you to share. And so with that, Laura, or to anyone at Vernetta, is there anything else from me? If not, I'll jump off now.
No, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So like Chief Blocker said, we are in the midst of the equity audit, and the overall goals of this phase of the process is really identifying the internal and external barriers that the police and community relations is currently experiencing, and to understand how the police department is being perceived by the public. So part of this is hearing from the public. That is you all. Thank you for joining. We're very hopeful that you all will bring us some great participation today, as well as via email or voicemail, or in person on Thursday. So my name is Laura Opheim. I have been a consultant with MGT for about 4 years now, but working in the public sector for 15 years. My background is in demographics, started my career in data collection and analysis, and I'm one of the team's experts in community engagement methods and strategies. Vernetta?
Good morning, Vernetta Mitchell. I am supporting Ms. Laura and David in the community engagement to really make sure that we hear and understand what it is that you expect and want to see in terms of police and community engagement in the city of Battle Creek. So thank you for coming, and we look forward to the dialogue.
And David, do you just mind introducing yourself real quick?
Yeah, not at all. Good morning, everybody. My name is David Bushnell. Been with MGT for about a year, been doing public sector consulting for the last 4 or 5 now. And my expertise here is doing the actual background analysis once Miss Laura and Miss Vernetta have collected all that information. I'm just sitting in today so I can get some notes for myself and have a better idea of what the discussions are like.
Thank you. Like I mentioned, there are multiple ways to participate in this other than today's live session. There are in-person sessions on Thursday at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Vernetta and I will be in person at the Kool Family Center. Alternatively, you can email battlecreek@mgtconsulting.com or call this voicemail line and leave us a voicemail with your thoughts on the current state of BCPD. That said, let's get started into some of the feedback. So with the conversation that we want to have today, we're looking to gather what engagement methods or community activities that BCPD has been using recently that you feel has been impactful in the community, and what other areas BCPD could use to improve its outreach. I know we have a few members of the community here. If there are any participants that want to voice their opinion on this, please do so and unmute yourself.
This is Randall. Did you say you're talking about members of the community and
Yes.
feedback? Okay. So the reason I joined today is I wanted to give some feedback, and it's kind of timely. As far as what kind of categories I fit in, I'm Caucasian, I'm a senior, I'm 68 years old. I'm also have a medical problem, and that is I'm diabetic. And last Friday, I was first time this has happened, but I got a low with the low blood sugar because I wear a pump and it continually gives me insulin that usually matches my calorie intake. Anyway, it went very low, and I ended up instead of running errands like I expected to, parking my car in the middle of Golden Avenue and not really knowing what was going on at all. I had my Rottweiler dog in the back seat. People passed and kind of asked me if I was okay, and I said, yeah, I'm okay. But I didn't really know what I was talking about. So I don't know what the time frame was on this, because the brain was not working. And the Battle Creek police showed up. Black officer was asking me questions. He was accompanied by a young white officer, a female, and he did most of the talking. I couldn't answer the questions. I didn't know really what I was doing or why I was there. And so I think this went on for a while, and he finally decided he needed to get me out of the car, asked me to get out. I again, couldn't give him good answers. I ended up in handcuffs in the back of the police car till they, I guess, investigated further. But eventually the fire department showed up and had a tube of glucose and gave me that. And after a short time, I think it usually only takes like 15 minutes or something for glucose to work, I came more back to normal. But in the meantime, the officer was great. He was very professional, was like respectful all the time. The woman working with him, that officer, was, helping him. I don't know if it was her that contacted the fire department or that officer, but they were great. And I was at one point, I know I was struggling. I had the handcuffs on, and I was trying to pull my hands out. I was rolling around in the back seat. They asked me to stop. I don't think I did right away. Eventually, just because the handcuffs hurt, I stopped. But they didn't hurt because they were too tight. They hurt because I was trying to pull my arms out of the handcuffs. And eventually, though, they got to. got the help I needed.
Mm,
And I wonder what would have happened, if they hadn't come, if they hadn't had patience, if they didn't, act professionally, and it could have been a disaster for me. They could have opened up the doors and my dog could have run away. I could have maybe recovered enough to start driving again. That could have been a horrible disaster, but they ended up contacting my wife. She said, "Yep, he's diabetic," and I think that's when the office of the fireman gave me the glucose, or actually, I think he just pumped some into my mouth for the first time, and then later gave me the tube and let me finish that. But I can't give him enough kudos.
Yeah.
So I think the chief was asking for, you said they want feedback, and I guess part of that feedback is to get a good view of what they look like, and part of that feedback should be in this case very positive feedback. Everybody was great. So I wanted to make sure that got delivered.
Yeah,
absolutely. First of all, Randall, thank you for the courage to share your story. And we could definitely tell that it was very scary and very difficult for you to do that. So thank you. And these are the types of anecdotes that we need to hear, right? So we always hear, not always, but for a good part, we hear about what our officers do wrong. And their job is part of judgment in many cases, and for them to first make sure that you were safe. And that was the reason they put you in the handcuffs in the car, to keep you safe until they could figure out what was going on. And so we really appreciate you sharing that story and how you appreciate them helping you, because you're right. We don't know what could have happened had they not responded, had they not been as patient in trying to figure out really what was going on. So we do appreciate you sharing your story today.
Yeah, and the handcuffs are certainly understandable. Again, I did not know what I was doing. I'm not a small guy. I'm 6 foot, about 200 pounds, and so it makes perfect sense to me to just make sure somebody's, not gonna, could cause damage if I'm doing the wrong thing. So
that's right.
They did a great job. Kudos to them, and I hope that gets back to the officer. I don't know his name, but both of them, they both did a good job.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So unless you guys have any question for me, I'm going to put myself back on mute. I'll be, I think, on for a while, but I don't think I'm going to be here for the whole meeting. Thanks.
Well, thank you for participating.
Yep. Well, Randall, before you go on mute, I do have a question for you. Before that day, have you had any other encounters, even if it's in like them coming to a community meeting, like neighbor or national night out, or anything like that, seeing them in the store and having conversations with PD? Have you had any other, have you paid attention or had any other contact with PD?
Yes. Well, Chief Blocker was downtown. I think this was last summer. There were meetings in Friendship Park, and he came down and spoke to people then. So he always leaves a pretty good impression. I was also chair of a neighborhood planning council, and we'd have officers just about every month come in and kind of give an update on what the police were doing, and if it was Christmas shopping season, to make sure you lock stuff away, don't leave presents or gifts and stuff like that, visible in the car, and giving safety tips. So I can't think of an engagement I've had with the police that was negative. They've all been pretty positive. They, again, professional and are there when you need them. And I guess most of the time I don't see them, but
Okay.
yeah.
So the meetings that they come to on your planning council is part of what of their outreach. Do you think there are other things, other areas that they can participate or encourage or extend their outreach for people to know more about what they do and to service the community?
I kind of see that as a leadership role, the leadership of the police department, the police, they're doing outreach every time they are just doing their job and come in contact with somebody.
Okay.
That's a real impactful outreach, just like this officer did with me last Friday. So
okay.
I'm not looking for, and some of the officers that would come to our meeting, some were very articulate, some you could tell were not public speakers or anything. So, I hate to see somebody that's, wants to be a police officer and kind of put into positions that they might not be, comfortable with, or, as good as they are at being a police officer,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was very helpful.
Yeah.
Laura, what are our next questions?
So around media options, what media options do you use to access police activity? And are there other sources for information that you would like the police to utilize?
So media options, like how do you hear about the community events that PD are engaged in? So for example, I think I mentioned National Night Out is one where community and police activities occur just because that's that event, right? It talks about community safety across the country for National Night Out in August. But are there other activities that the PD does and they post on either social media, or they post or they do stories in the paper, or you hear it on the radio? And does anyone hear information? And if you do, how do you hear it? Catherine, see your hand up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a wonderful opportunity to express our appreciation to the Battle Creek Police Department. I believe the media options that the police department occasionally does is our WBCK radio station has opportunities for officers to speak with the radio announcers, maybe for 15, 20 minutes when they've been invited to speak on the radio. I know Chief Blocker has done that. Several of his lieutenants have. And another app that I like to follow is Next Door Neighbor. In fact, that's how I found out about this town hall event, because the communications person for the city is pretty good at making announcements of this very important opportunity to offer feedback. I think the police department does have a Facebook page. I've not seen it at all. I think that's an opportunity for people to take a look at what activities the police do have going on. I do like Randall's expression of the professionalism that we do have in the Battle Creek Police Department. We're very lucky in that standpoint. They're doing their job and they want to do it in a way that is respectful and professional. And I'm not sure of any other sources for information, because our Battle Creek Inquirer newspaper is kind of on a limited basis right now. It's actually printed in Lansing, Michigan. Lots of people think it's going to be strictly online from now on, even though we are getting a print copy to households that want to take it. But we had a very important person who was the police reports reporter for the Battle Creek Inquirer, passed away a few months ago.
Okay.
They have replaced with a new reporter. I've met him, Grayson Steele, I think is his last name. He seems to be very willing to be reporting in our Battle Creek region, which we desperately need. Not a lot of people like to always focus on online newspaper editions. And it's just kind of a sign of the times. And it's a hard change for people who've really wanted to keep up on local events. And that would, certainly be important for the police to advertise their events that they might like the community to respond to. I would agree with Randall when he said that the Friendship Park meetings that were held earlier last year, it's good to know that they have been able to communicate and be upfront, and they try to be as transparent as possible. And I'm just attending this session today because it was convenient on my schedule, but I wish more people were with us, because it seems like we're heavy on the staff of the city, which is great, but that's a-okay. But Randall and I seem to be only the community members that have tuned in today.
Okay, thank you. So I would have a question, Catherine, because you bring up a very valid point about the participation. And the reason, of course, I'm sure you understand, is we do these engagement meetings because you have pockets of information, but we need to kind of bring it together to figure out what direction we need to go. You've mentioned several sources that is used to disseminate information about PD activities. What can you think of any other sources or techniques that we could potentially use to encourage more people to participate? We have 2 more meetings coming up on Thursday, actually at the Kool Center, Thursday morning and Thursday evening. What can we do differently to try to encourage more people to provide their input?
Well, I think if someone could alert WBCK in the next day or so that these important opportunities are available this coming Thursday. I do know that emails can be sent in. I think that's a valuable thing. Leaving a voice message is important too. But as I was trying to get online today for this one, I had a flyer that I printed out from Next Door Neighbor, and I was able to, it was difficult to get online today. And I don't think that's your fault at all. It's just one of those things where people need to be made aware. And I know lots of people depend on Facebook.
Yeah.
And was this promoted on the Battle Creek Police Department Facebook page? Would you know?
So
Go ahead,
Maybe.
Laura.
I believe so.
If it was, then that's a good starting point. But I do know people try to listen to WBCK. I don't know if the country music stations that people listen to in this area would be able to give just a short reminder about this very important opportunity. I know you want to hear as many comments as possible, but it's just, I don't know if it's still the effects of COVID that people are not willing to go online, or I'm really excited for your opportunity to be in person on Thursday. Just my schedule doesn't allow me to attend Thursday night. So that's why I'm here this morning.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. And we took note of those additional opportunities and look into those over the next day and a half.
Lucy?
My name is Lucy Blair. I work for Calhoun County, so for the county, not the city. I am here mostly to observe the process just because I'm interested in these sorts of efforts in our community and appreciate the opportunity to follow. This one in particular, this conversation topic resonates with me because I'm the PIO, the Public Information Officer for the county, and then also Communications Manager. And one of the things that I just thought I would point out that I've noticed, because I also put out all of our releases for the sheriff's office. So this is kind of a topic I'm really interested in, and something that we've run into, and actually spoken about how we lost our courts and cops report based on kind of what the.
I'm sorry, Lucy, you went out a little bit.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll just real quick, I'll just say, I think that the way that we disseminate information really could benefit from being equitable. And what I mean by that is in the past, we have communicated directly with the cops and courts reporter because that was the person that we were engaging with the most. And then other news sources weren't receiving information. That's not the events. I would say that events for BCPD have been very well promoted because they use the city's communications person. A lot of times it'll go through that channel, but sometimes when it comes to actual activity and like kind of incident reporting and things like that, that information was given to a single news source rather than, maybe permitted for everyone to see. And so that was just a comment that I would have in terms of how we disseminate the information of these agencies. I think that there's a lot of benefit to making sure that it's not just to one news source that also has a paywall, but instead is available somehow to all folks. I do think that because our local paper is changing, that process is also changing, so I recognize that that has definitely changed the environment a little bit, but I just wanted to mention that I do think that it's worth noting that when we have incidents, the way that we share that information with the community, making sure that it's available to all people, I think is really important.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I got stuck on mute there. I was actually going to ask Lucy if you feel like that when incidents are reported and you were saying through a particular news outlet, do other outlets then pick it up afterwards or okay?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it was a relationship-based thing. We had a really strong relationship with this one reporter. And so therefore, because it's a major paper, it was considered a fine route to go. And, I think that that's fine because then the other newspapers maybe pick it up and then they're asking questions. But I think we do have, and I would say this to anyone, we do have some more reactive news sources here in Calhoun versus proactive. They're much more going to just base it off of what the other stories are saying. And to me, that creates some problems in the flow of information because they're reliant on the information that they already gave one reporter versus, the agency putting it out to all folks. And so, I do really think that there has been some changes in that. And I've seen that from the city. I've noticed that the press releases are coming now from the communications person, which then goes out to the whole group. But I've just noticed that sometimes it goes directly to one place. And then we're all kind of reliant on, kind of funneled through that one source versus the information coming directly from the agency. And I think to some degree there is an equity part in that especially because that news source is often behind a paywall.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to move on to our next conversation topic of youth initiatives. So if anyone on the call is familiar with any youth initiatives, what are they currently doing, and what what improvements regarding youth initiatives and engagement and interactions do you think BCPD could do?
This is Catherine again. The youth initiatives, I'm not sure the proper title for the Explorers program the Battle Creek Police Department is working on convincing or giving the opportunity for youth in our community to take a look at the career of being a law enforcement officer. And I think that's been beneficial because the Explorers program enables students to see truly what a police officer is required to do. They do some, I think, job shadowing. They are available to help the police officers when needed. And I think inspiring young people to look at this possible career is valuable because right now there is a shortage of police officers. And it's one of those things where Battle Creek Central High School has a career academy with, it would be public law enforcement through the high school. I do know that KCC has a criminal justice program that trains potential police officers, as well as over to Olivet College. They have a criminal justice department or field of learning that is important to our ability to inspire the young people to consider a career in becoming a police officer.
Okay, very good. And just to make sure that we're clear, KCC is Kalamazoo Community College?
No, it would be Kellogg Community College.
Kellogg Community College. Okay. See, I didn't know that. Kellogg Community College. Thank you.
That's okay, but it's just, so valuable to have our police officers visible throughout the city, but they are tremendously, and it's not their fault at all, understaffed right now. And they're doing all that they can to fulfill the ability to respond to calls throughout the city. But I think it's really rewarding to see them take an interest in our young people who might consider a career becoming a police officer.
David, I am just seeing your chat come through here about good knowledge of what the operating procedures are with the city of Battle Creek PD. Are you referring to anything in particular? And I don't know if David can hear us. Oh. See if asking you to unmute yourself will help.
Does that work? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. My question is, do you or someone here online have knowledge of the standard procedures that officers should follow in specific incidents?
Yes.
To not be so vague, one example is I run into recently a situation in Battle Creek City where there was a gentleman that, let's say this carefully, appeared to be under the influence of some very serious narcotics, probably being meth or heroin, standing at a fence outside of a property, just going through his problem as if he was captured by the fence, but he wasn't. And this went on for about 45 minutes. The guy was just out of his head. His car was parked in the traffic with the door open and a box outside the door. A city code compliance inspector was parked observing this as well, called dispatch 40 minutes before I did, and it still took 20 minutes to get someone there. I videotaped it just for myself and him, out of curiosity, at that time, an officer, female, pulled up in one squad car, a male officer in another, her corporal or sergeant possibly. They stood outside the car, looked around. I explained that the guy had left the fenced in area, went around the back of the garage. And to our eyesight, we had opposite corners, I and the city inspector, and the person was still back there. Well, my concern is if his keys were in the car, he could have gotten back in his car, left, possibly killed somebody or himself. I felt his life was possibly and probably in danger. And the two city officers looked around. They did not even approach the vehicle. And they said, well, we don't see him. If you see him again, call us back. And they left. I don't know that to be proper handling of a situation like that. If it is, I don't feel that that's how we should handle things either. What is your opinion or comments on that, or anybody's?
So I'm going to ask David to partake here. He has completed his review of the BCPD policies.
Yeah, as far as operational policies go, I don't know. It's one thing to look at them in a vacuum. It's a whole nother thing to actually apply them in the field. As far as the particular situation that you're describing, I can't speak off the top of my head as to what the actual policies and procedures should have been followed. But I did note down your experience here, and we'll definitely deliver those comments indicating that perhaps this should have been handled in a different way. But as far as just the operationalization of the operations policies for BCPD, I don't know that any of the MGT staff can speak to it directly, because none of us are necessarily police officers that have applied the craft. We're policy analysts.
And David, do you feel like there are ways for you to report this incident to BCPD, or are there barriers to talking with them about this?
I have mixed feelings, to be honest with you. I feel that I am not one that would say everything is bad, because I had an experience the other day with a city officer that was an amazing experience. The officer presented himself well and very, very acceptable. He focused on his job. He was proactive. He, to my surprise, could speak Spanish, which was needed in the situation. He was very heartfelt and a great officer. He was a canine officer downtown. And he did an amazing job. However, there on the other side of the table, there's some, as well as everybody, there's good and bad. Or let me strike the bad, but some that are better than others, I guess is the way to say that. Another situation, and I want to ask you a question during the course of this. Imagine this being 11:30 on New Year's Eve. You're at your house in the city and you hear fireworks go off. Of course, people are celebrating. And then you hear gunshots, and they're excessive gunshots. So you open your door and you look to the neighbors and you see them out there with guns. You call dispatch, and the response from dispatch would be, we've had many calls on that. and we're not going to respond because it's perfectly normal and legal to do this. It's New Year's Eve. How would you take that, or how do you feel about that situation if this were you?
I live in a very different community, so I don't know what
Okay.
the response would be.
Imagine real quickly you being in a inner city, very close properties, houses, having something like that happen and hear that from a dispatch officer or person and get no response.
I definitely understand your concerns there. And
Would you have
my
felt
reaction would be to report this to a supervisor and inquire with the city as to why this is regulation or why that response.
Well, the response to that I did was, the comment was made, do you think the officer wants to get shot? And I said, well, they've chosen a job that is high risk for that. And I'm guessing if they are worried about getting shot, they should choose a different profession. I don't believe that any officers should refuse to respond to a situation that has had discharge of a firearm in the city. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel they should respond to those. I understand there's probably many, but maybe a squad car driving past the place with lights, bells, and whistles would divert it enough. We don't know. But I would bet it's at least a 1% chance better than 0. You follow
Yeah,
me?
Dave, you have some very valid concerns, and like Laura mentioned, it's kind of hard to assess when we're not in that environment. But your points are very valid. It definitely sounds like if that was a response from the 911 operator, that it needs to be a policy discussion with Battle Creek City Council on adjusting that it is legal, quote unquote, to fire weapons in the middle of inner city. So
I have that. I have that recording. To hear that, these were noted felons with these weapons. The night that I just explained, 30 minutes later, a young male took a shot in the back of his head and was killed on that property. Could it have been prevented? Even a 1% chance would have been better than 0.
Absolutely. So definitely the policy that the operator was referring to definitely sounds like one that needs to be readdressed with City Council and see if there could be anything that could be changed for New Year's Eve 2023, possibly. So that would be our definite recommendation around that. But what we do want to focus on, and that is definitely an engagement piece of how you're dealing with the community and how the community's dealing or communicating with Battle Creek Police Department. And this kind of rolls into the next topic of transparency with the community and ways that the PD can be more transparent around, to your point, David, policies, laws, processes, what's happening in the community in terms of their policing activities. Is there a way that it is so hard to say BCPD, the police department, I'm just going to say the police department can be more transparent with the community in an effort to establish a better relationship and trust?
I think it's important that they do that. I think it's important and a necessity for the civilians of the city or people living in the city to cooperate with the PD, to help in all situations. Also, if an officer was to stand when a situation is occurring and tell the residents, go back in your house, we can't tell you what's going on, kind of gives them a cold shoulder, and they may have the feeling, hey, okay, we don't want to help you then. You follow me? Well, in a lot of situations, I firmly believe that if an officer arrives and something was to happen, there's a lot of good people that can really offer physical help in a situation like that. Well, some would say that's dangerous and you shouldn't do that, which, I guess you have to weigh that out. You know what I mean? But even eyes on a situation, rather than give somebody the cold shoulder that, we can't tell you anything. Well, okay, so everybody's in their homes worried what happened, and maybe we never hear about it. So we're thinking, God, what's going on around here? You know what I mean? As well as property values going down because of things like this. People saying, oh, we don't want to be in that area. I hear that. I'm in real estate. I hear that all the time, that we don't want to buy a house in that area because the police don't come and people do what they want to do. Well, to eliminate the problem, you can't pick the dead leaves off the plant. You've got to treat the root, I believe.
Okay. I like that analogy. Julie.
Hi, my name is Julie Dye, and I'm from Cass County, Michigan, and I'm just trying to plug in to see what other communities are doing with, the policing issues. So what we're doing in Cass County, we have a Social Justice Alliance of Cass County that has got a project, and we have 5 police departments within the county that we are actually going to be asking to complete a pretty extensive survey. That survey includes, the goal here is to be proactive, to prevent another George Floyd or Breonna Taylor. We don't want that, so we want to take measures to prevent that. So our questionnaire is going out to the police department chiefs, 5 of them, and we have questions about transparency. Are your policies available, and so that citizens can review them? Do your officers wear body cams? Are they required to keep them turned on? I mean, it's really goes pretty deep. And so once we get all those responses, we're going to analyze them and find out where the disparities lie between departments. And so then after we do that, we're going to find a way, we haven't figured out how yet, to survey the communities about their perception or their, like I've heard here, some of their experiences with the departments. And so we're going to, kind of weigh the perception versus, the actual department policies and how they operate. So that's what we're doing, hoping to shed some light on the discrepancies, or what, how people view. And it's not like we're going after the law enforcement officers, because we just want, like I said, want to prevent incidents and know, that it's all equitable across the board. Nobody's being targeted, nobody's being profiled. And so, yeah, that's the project that we're working on. So just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Julie, do you mind? I'm sorry, I didn't catch what communities you were surveying. I just want to capture that.
Okay, it's 5 police departments in Cass County. That
Okay.
would the city of Dowagiac, village of Cass, Ontawa Police Department, the Cass County Sheriff Department, and also the Pokagon Band Tribal Police Department.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, I believe your hand is raised right now.
Sure, thank you so much. One of the ways that I think Battle Creek Police Department has been very transparent, if there has been an incident in the city, there seems to be within a very good amount of time, the public is informed by a press conference that's held by the police department leaders. Another way that they've been transparent is through Battle Creek Public Schools. They have a subcommittee called Bearcat Health, and the police department has been, Chief Blocker has been a representative on that committee that really has a focus on troubled students or students who might need extra assistance or just be able to problem solve together as a team of community resource people to alleviate stresses that might be compounding problems at the school, but eventually it seems to be maybe it's community influence, but the police representation on this Bearcat Health program has been very helpful because they have been able to listen to concerns that students have brought to the school administration, as well as even to their own families. And they've offered some really good solutions to make sure that a student's health is less tragic or less stressful. I think it's just by being able to listen to people's concerns throughout the community is a step in the right direction. It does take time, and it's one of those things where, when issues arise, I think it's just very important to, I think they do have a non-emergency contact number that can be used by the public to make sure that their concern is offered and they'd like to know about it, I'm sure.
Thank you. I believe that brings us to the end. Oh, no, sorry. I forgot about this one. What recommendations do you as a community have to improve police community relations? Are there any methods of communication that you would like the police department to either stop using or continue using, increase their use of? No one? Okay.
I would add that the things that they are developing for the police and community relations, it is about relationships. The officer downtown has been important. It's been a little bit tough during COVID due to things not being open or available to employees in their office buildings that are downtown. But I like the fact that the police officers do promote a trunk or treat celebration when it's Halloween time. They are available to be visible in their line of work. And it's one of those things where they, I think, would be open to any suggestions that the community would offer in what they'd like to see, how relationships are built. But it's just so important that communication is a two-way street. And I think officers want to realize that they want to hear the citizens' concerns. And it's one of those things where they're available to listen, but due to circumstances beyond their control, they're kind of short on staff, and they are working at training new officers, but training an efficient officer takes time, and it's valuable work to make sure an officer has been trained properly.
Thank you, Catherine. Randall, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I guess as far as ways to improve the community police relations, I think that's what the the question is. But I know when I was back in elementary school, we would have police officers come in and visit once in a while. And you get a good impression of the police then. And I think especially for if there's some forum where you can reach all people, especially, you know, young people growing up, they're all going to be in school at some point, and some guidelines on what the police want when there is a public police interaction. You know, there's some behavior that I think should be expected by the public. You know, show some respect. Don't you know, mouth off if they're trying to do a job, and and we've, as a society, we give them the force that they need to execute that job. They should be treated with respect and cooperated with, and you can't give up your civil rights, but you can also, you know, act in a cooperative, respectful way that's going to, you know, reduce friction between public and police. And it seems like having the public educated on what those kind of expectations are, and what's going to make a public police interaction go more smoothly, whether it's a traffic stop or, you know, you just see them out on the street for something, that an education on what's expected from the public would be a good idea.
Very good. Very good.
So Vernetta and the community, this is the last question that we had prepared for you all today. If there are other topics that you all would like to discuss, the floor is yours regarding police. But if there is nothing additional, I would like to remind everyone that Vernetta and I will be in person at the Kool Family Center on Thursday, this Thursday, the 24th at 1 p.m. Nope, sorry, 11 p.m.
11
a.m. Oh, good Lord, I have a 7-month-old.
11 to 1 and 6 to 8.
6 to 8. And you can also respond to the email address battlecreek@ngtconsulting.com or leave a voicemail. And I'm going to flip to that slide so it is on the screen there. The number is 989-260-6330.
We really appreciate everyone's input and feedback today. I think we picked up, at least I heard, and I'm sure that our other team members did as well, heard very valuable input and insight on your perspective and what you expect and would like to see from Battle Creek Police Department, and what you'd like for them to continue to do. I think that was an important takeaway as well, is that there are activities and tasks and initiatives that they have in place that you'd like to see continued. So we thank you all very much for coming. We thank you for sharing your ideas, your experiences, and feel free to continue to reach out and encourage other community members to join us as well. So if you have others who may have some input or insight, please ask them to either email us, leave a voicemail, or come visit us on Thursday at the Kool Center. So with that, Laura, anything before we close?
No, that is all. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
We have a couple questions
And
in chat.
yes, we do. Okay.
Oh,
Just popped up.
the dates for Thursday, it is the 24th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Kool Center.
Putting it in the chat.
Okay. And thank you to our
March 24th.
today.
And there will be, do we have Burmese and Spanish translators
No.
on Thursday?
Thursday will be from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be American Sign Language.
Sign
interpretation.
language, okay.
Oh, we have a community member joining us, I believe. Hi, Jill. We were just wrapping up because we had gone through all of our questions and didn't expect anyone else to be joining us. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay, I will hit a different session then.
Okay.
Are you sure?
I mean, we're here. We have the time to speak with you.
Well, who all is there? I see there's a bunch of people.
Right now, we just have interpretation really on the line.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I saw there are a few more on the 24th, so I'll hit those ones in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, we'll see you on the 24th.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll see everybody later. Oh, Laura's gone.